Hello everybody, I'm Krasiattasio, I'm sidereal astrologer, and today I will make my analysis prediction of the year 2019 from the perspective of the ancient Sumerian and Babylonian astrologers. My analysis will be astronomical as it will take into consideration the changes of the equinoxes, the live sky, and all important heliacal events that will take place in the year 2019. I explained in a previous video that actually the real astronomical year starts with the first lunar crescent before the equinox, and this is 8th of March. So when on the evening we see the first lunar crescent before the sun goes into the point of equinox, which is the 5 degrees Pisces, then we know that this is the most important day of the year, the way it was considered by the ancient Sumerians. The Babylonians later on, from 3500 BC on, would consider this event calculated in a bit different way. But we are aiming at reconstructing the most ancient analysis of the year to come and the most astronomical analysis, which includes this: the first lunar crescent before the equinox, 8th of March. So whatever we see on the sky on this particular day will describe the whole year. So don't forget to go in the evening when the sun sets and the moon comes up in the sky, look at the sky and make your own conclusions. Of course, before I talk about March 2019 and March 2020, I will give very brief overview of the 3 months from January 2019 to March 2019. So my overview will include analysis of the main celestial events, like the eclipses. They're very important, like the heliacal phases of the planets, because every heliacal appearance, like the symbolical birth of the planet and disappearance, is manifesting in some sort of events for us on personal but also on mundane level. This is what I will be talking about. And if you want detailed analysis of the month, you may look at my monthly astrological predictions, which I place on YouTube 2-3 days before the beginning of every month. So before we start with the analysis of the celestial astronomical year, we will look at the 3 months from January to March, and they start with eclipse. 5th, 6th January, we have in the solar eclipse, which I have separate video about, and which eclipse is afflicting the axis of Sagittarius and Gemini, and this axis is where also Saturn is. And this is very much about media, about the media coverage, the truth will not reach us. This is very much about the truth and ruling figures, which will be directly afflicted by this eclipse. On the 20th to 21st, we're having the lunar eclipse. It is a total lunar eclipse, which is affecting the axis of Cancer, Capricorn. And this is a very sensitive axis, which was already heavily afflicted this summer by Mars in Ketu, and which resulted in all these devastating events for the economy, the complete fall of the markets, which I spoke about in some of my videos, and which also resulted in the fires in Australia, I think, or New Zealand was it, and the fires in Greece. All these events were as a result of the eclipses and the conjunction of Mars and Ketu. Now we have here very a similar thing happening, but we have Mercury, Ketu, and the Sun, and they're being eclipsed in Capricorn, and this will have very much to do with the ruling figures, which will certainly be afflicted by this eclipse, but also again information, media, which will be manipulated and which will suffer in numerous ways. So be very alert, be very awake. Then I would just make an overview of the eclipses. Then we have the next eclipse happening 16, 17 of July, and this is the partial lunar eclipse. All eclipses are dramatic events. I wish I could be positive, but eclipses since ancient times were never considered positive. So this lunar eclipse is covering much of Europe, the previous one also, much of Asia, Australia. I'm looking at the website of NASA, Africa, Southeast, North America, South America, Pacific, Atlantic, Indian Ocean, and Antarctica. Remember that the most afflicted places in the world are the places where the shadow of the eclipse passes through. And these countries will be impacted by the eclipse on the 16 and 17 July, and this is partial lunar eclipse. Now again, here we have afflicted the axis of Sagittarius, Gemini, and Saturn is taking place in this eclipse. And when Saturn is powerful, visible, retrograde, it is certainly going to be, and Saturn is conjoined with Ketu and with Pluto. This is going to result in devastating events. So this will result very possibly in natural events like earthquakes. Some ruling figures will be also afflicted heavily. Around this timing, it's good not to take any risks, especially people who are having on important key positions the axis of Sagittarius, Gemini, and Cancer, Capricorn. This eclipse is accompanied with the exact conjunction of Saturn and Ketu, and Saturn is the one who brings truth. So if we have issues which we didn't deal with properly, like issues with truthfulness, issues with high moral values, now will be the time when Saturn will come into play, and we will need to pay our karmic debt. So we need to be very cautious on the way we deal with high moral values and truthfulness, because there is always this particular time which comes to pay for our mistakes. So this is quite a risky period, because we have exact retrograde Saturn with Ketu, with Pluto opposing Venus. So this can afflict our finances, certainly our love life, and will be something that we need to deal with in a very spiritual and very conscious level. These eclipses will shake the markets in a very negative way. The prices of the gold can also be decreased. So this is very bad event related to the world economy. But every month I will be making separate videos also about this. And then we're having one more eclipse in this year, and it is happening on the same axis, Sagittarius, Gemini. It is happening on the 26th of December 2019. It will be covering the shadows will pass through Eastern Europe, much of Asia, northwest of Australia, east in Africa, Pacific, Indian Ocean. I'm again looking at the data which is given officially by NASA. This eclipse is having Jupiter invisible. It is not a good thing when you have beneficial and beautiful planet like Jupiter, at that time already in Sagittarius, invisible. This will mean problem for ruling figures. The king may die, the king may suffer, or his power may be taken off his hands. This will mean that we will again be responsible for our moral actions. This can manifest in unpredictable manifestations of religion. So we need to be very spiritual, very conscious, and yes, the high moral values, the empathy, and the way we approach with good heart people will be very much helping around times of the eclipses. So these are important events that it's good to have on our list of 2019. What is also important to look at from January to March, before we start looking at the chart of the new year, of the new celestial year, we look at the heliacal, important heliacal phases of the planets. So what we're seeing, especially for Saturn, is that on the 4th of February, Saturn is becoming visible, rises heliacally. It is receiving his symbolical birth. And this is happening in Sagittarius. When planet like Saturn becomes visible, and when we know the nature of Saturn, who brings our karma, who is the wisest of the wisest, who is the Lord of tears, who is the one responsible for our high moral values and truthfulness. So when we know that planet like Saturn will become visible on the 4th of February, and 7 days before 4th of February, and 7 days after February, he will be extremely powerful. We need to expect events which are related to this, to the lack of truthfulness, to the lack of high moral values. So Saturn in Sagittarius can be pretty biting, can influence the markets in a very volatile level. This is on the 4th of February. Remember, 7 days before and 7 days after. At that time, Mars will be conjunct Venus, so this can put in question also our relationships, can bring out some truthfulness, can desire solving of unsolved issues. But for sure, the heliacal rise of Saturn can result of some sort events which we may not find very pleasing. On the 29th of April, Saturn is stationary and then becomes retrograde. It's in Sagittarius, but we will talk about this in a while. Another planet which is having heliacal phases from January to March, this is Mercury. On the 5th of January, Mercury is becoming heliacally invisible on the sky. And with this, this is to say that all media work, all writing will not be very much supported. Our speech, our teaching will not be very powerfully supported by Mercury. And then on the 12th of February, Mercury is becoming visible again, and this is a very good date if you want to publish something, if you want to do media work, if you want to travel, if you want to negotiate. So this is 12th of February, 7 days before and 7 days after. Mercury will be visible as a morning star early on the eastern horizon. And this is happening in Aquarius, the sign of the new technologies of information, the sign of spirituality. So this is a very beautiful heliacal rise of Mercury. On the 3rd of March, Mercury is disappearing heliacally, and on the 6th of March, he will be just for a while in his stationary phase. These are the most important events from the point of view of the heliacal phases of the planets. So I shared my screen with you to show you the chart of the first lunar crescent before the sun reaches the point of the vernal equinox. This is the astronomical new year. This is the time which was considered holy in ancient Mesopotamia, and people would celebrate the Akitu festivals, the very holy and the most important day of the year. This particular chart will give us information how the whole year will look like. Before we start with the analysis, which will be just like an overview, I will not get into so much detail, but before this, just let me tell you what I already maybe said, that let's not forget that we're living in the era of Aries, because we entered the mini era of Aries. We cannot expect so many harmonious and peaceful events. This is not because I wish to be negative. I am not negative, but this is the reality. So look at the first lunar crescent, which appears in the 17 degrees Pisces. So, and the sun is still in Aquarius. So what did we see? This is Mercury exactly in the point of the vernal equinox, the 4 degrees of Pisces. And it is like an omen that in this very particular moment, Mercury disappears heliacally. Mercury is associated with information, press, media. Mercury is associated with uh, the speech, with the communication. So when this disappears at the day of the vernal equinox, we can think that there will be communication darkening, media lies. So this is quite serious, especially when we know that Mercury rules another key point, and this is the point of the meridian here. This is the point of the information of the media. So this is not good for the markets as well, and it's not promising, because Mercury, being such a fast planet, is very much associated with the markets and the finances of the year. So the moon is in the 17 degrees of Pisces and is having a separating aspect from Venus. It means that the moon leaves behind Venus and is aiming at an aspect with Saturn, and this aspect is a square. This I see as an ominous prediction, saying that you will see this year some important key world figures will be receiving their lesson, or they will be suffering. This will be dangerous for the king, for the most important world figures. This is for sure. But since Saturn is with Pluto and in the sign of Sagittarius, it is also a sign that we need to be very truthful. We need to maintain very, very high moral values in order not to become victims of this particular aspect, because also the common people, the working class people, are also represented by Saturn, and they may be also be victim of events associated with disasters, natural disasters, and terrorism. Why? Because we're living in the era of Mars ruled by Aries, because we are in the mini era, the dodecatemoria of Aries, and because there is an interesting phenomena which is considered ominous by the ancient Babylonian astrologers, and this is that Mars is above the moon. Mars is above the moon at the moment of the spring of the Akitu, of the first lunar crescent, of the first of Nisan, the most important day of the year. Mars is above the moon. Uranus as well. How do we see this? We see this as possible violence, possible turbulences, possible events which will not be very romantic and harmonious. They can be associated with violence and with natural disasters like fires, those that are associated with Mars. But violence I certainly don't exclude, especially when somewhere in the summer we'll have the opposition of Mars and Saturn. Uranus is the one who brings in the sudden changes, but he is also the one who is represented by God Anu, the sky, the cosmos. So we will either be very related to the cosmic world, to the white spirit world, to the sky, or we will stay in the low vibrational level, and then we will suffer more. So it's very much up to us which reality, which dimension, and which vibrational level we choose in order to be to have easier destinies and easier time when it comes to these heavy aspects encoded in the chart of the year 2019. So Venus is in Capricorn. Venus is loved by Saturn. Saturn rules Capricorn. So this is not bad, because it is known that in the sky, when Saturn sees Venus, his heart is melting. This is not bad, but this will be limiting in terms of love, in terms of relationships. This will be limiting in terms of market, money spending. The markets will stay not very while developing, they will stay quite down. The same will be related to the gold prices, but I will be making separate videos about the finances. Some of the videos will be with interesting guests, which are very good in the financial astrology. But I can already tell you that Venus in Capricorn is quite cold and quite limiting aspect for Venus, which represents the money, the beauty, even some attribute the gold to Venus. At that time, you see Jupiter is in the very last degrees of Scorpio in the term of Saturn. Jupiter is Scorpio, related to Saturn. Jupiter in Scorpio, Jupiter is a diurnal planet, is nocturnal, feminine sign as Scorpio. This changes enormously the nature of Venus and of Jupiter, and this is not the generous Jupiter which will save, which is the savior and which will support us in any situation. This Jupiter is very much about the deep philosophical studies, the deepest of the soul and esoterics and the secrets. So this is very constructive and practical placement of Jupiter, because there he will be teaching us some order, some discipline, but he will also introduce the limitations to us, which will be related to what Saturn can bring us. So but certainly during this period, we will be growing spiritually. We will be moving into another spiritual level or another level of consciousness. So we will be becoming thinkers on another level. We will be seeing in media interesting new discoveries in terms of the ancient world, in terms of the spirituality of the ancients, in terms of esoteric and ancient knowledges. So knowledge will come on the surface, deep ancient knowledge. But from the other point of view, Jupiter will not be very supportive. He will not be this guardian angel that we used to, because in Scorpio, he has another work. Ketu is moving into the sign of Sagittarius. Rahu at that time is in the sign of Gemini. This is wonderful for discovering new technologies, new communication means. So this will be very good, especially for people who are having this desire of knowledge, discovering knowledge, exposing knowledge. This will be about Rahu in Gemini. Ketu in Sagittarius with Saturn, this is an aspect which is not happening often, and this is an aspect which is very it's about lesson. It's about completing tasks that we didn't complete in our previous life or previously in this incarnation. This is quite pessimistic placement, can lead to melancholy, loss of hope. This can be tragic. And I will tell you approximately the timing when this will take place. I think on the 10th of May, Saturn and Ketu have exact conjunction. So this will result in heavy events, which can be tragic, which can make us lose hope, which can manifest in negative emotions. But this is the karmic debt that some of us need to pay. So this is very serious conjunction of Saturn and Ketu, and I will give it a little bit more attention to, and I will tell you approximately the timings of this event. I will dedicate a separate time in a video about this because it deserves an attention, but in general, in the summer, we will be experiencing some events of unpleasant nature. Some will be tragical, terrorism-like events. Others will be devastating nature events. I cannot be very positive because Saturn, Ketu, Pluto conjunctions is not a thing that you see every day. So from approximately 10th of May until 25th of October, Saturn and Ketu, including Pluto with them, will be together. and they will be moving all the time together, hand by hand, hand in hand. And this will be time, not very easy time, when we need to reconsider, when we need to rethink our values, when we need to rethink our spiritual beliefs, when we need to rethink our way of sharing and exposing truth. We need to be very much like what Saturn expects from us, to be very disciplined. It is all about discipline. It is all about paying past karma, or the karma in the past, in this life from before. It is very much about our beliefs and our values. We need to be very truthful, very spiritual. We need to maintain very high moral and vibrational level through maintaining good moral values and through being very empathic. And because this will be not very easy time for approximately 6 months. There will be the good timing when, in the very beginning of November, Jupiter is finally entering his own sign, Sagittarius. I've been waiting for quite such a time, and so many people are waiting for Jupiter to enter his own sign and to bring some justice into our lives. So this will be kind of reward for us waiting for so long for the Saturn and Ketu conjunction to pass. So the year will not be without turbulences. The market will not be very positive. Our finances will not be very promising. But we can pass through this with really connection with the Creator, with God, maintaining high moral values and vibrating on a high vibrational level by being very spiritual and very empathic towards people and very disciplined and very truthful. I know all this is not easy, but it's never easy. For none of us it's easy. But remember, we made this choice. We opted for coming and living now on Earth during the timing of Mars, because Mars is ruling the Dodecatemoria, Mars is ruling the time, because we knew that this would be the best opportunity for us to grow up spiritually, to lift our consciousness to another level. So yes, Saturn and Ketu will be together. This will be creating devastating events on the markets, on the prices of the gold, on the prices of the markets, of the financial markets. This may also influence the real estate markets, but month per month, I will be looking into this with detailed analysis. This is just my general overview, which is to tell you the most important and key dates of this year to come. So on the 21st of February, Ketu enters Sagittarius, Rahu enters Gemini, and these are the points of the solstices. This is given importance, emphasis on. This is the development of the media, of the new technologies, is the advances in this sense is given emphasis, but also our spiritual awareness is also given emphasis through Ketu, and how we deal with our mistakes, how we deal with our truthfulness, and I will repeat for numerous times, moral status, no moral values. I will now finalize just with the key dates of the heliacal phases of the planets. So on the 9th of June, Mars is becoming heliacally invisible. And then on the 1st of November, he is becoming visible again. His disappearance, I don't see as a bad event because he's less sharp then. But his appearance on the 1st of November will be associated with Martian event. I hope this will not be something dramatic, but certainly can be event associated with ambition, with new ideas, new plans, but in general can also be associated with some force, some military power. So this is not a very good thing. On 12th of August, Jupiter will be stationary, and then as an evening station, and it will, in order to, just excuse me, to become direct again. So Jupiter was retrograde from 4th of April in Scorpio until 12th of August. When Jupiter is retrograde, this is maybe the least harming retrograde state of a planet. Jupiter is always a good planet, always giving us blessing, but from 5th of April to 12th of August, being retrograde, Jupiter can bring us back to our spiritual, high philosophical knowledges and values. We may need to reconsider, rethink those, our connection with our gurus, with our fathers, with our superiors, with them. So this is what it can happen. On the 4th of December, Jupiter is becoming invisible, heliacally invisible. And with this, his support is also decreasing for us. I will list also Venus's phases. On the 20th of July, Venus is becoming invisible, disappears until 27th of September when she appears heliacally. When she appears heliacally, this will be blessing, this will be give opportunities in terms of love and finances. So keep in mind also this period, important period of Venus. 20th of July, she disappears. She's still active 7 days before and 7 days after. So 13th of July to 20th of July, she's still powerful. And then until 27th of July, she's powerful. And then on the 27th of September, she's becoming again heliacally visible. And this is an opportunity, a chance for our finances, for our love life. So these were the most key important events and the overview of the year from the point of view of the ancient Babylonian astrology, as they will look at the heliacal phases of the planets as a key factor, as the most important factor, as every significant change in the phase of the planets in relation to the sun would manifest in event. So the appearance of Mercury on the 12th of February will be good for media if you want to share your knowledge, if you want to negotiate. Then from 6th to 29th of March, Mercury will be retrograde. I do not give so much attention to this because the retrograde Mercury, I don't consider as very harmful, but some people consider him harmful. Therefore, I'm sharing with you these dates. 14th of May, he is becoming heliacally visible until 31st of May. And this is timing, very good timing of using it for knowledge, for media, for communication, negotiation, travel. On 24th of June, he disappears from the sky. Then you cannot benefit so much from his negotiation and communication support. 8th of July, he is stationary because from 6th to 31st of July, he will be retrograde in Cancer, and there he may not be very supportive for our media work. And then on 8th of August, he appears heliacally, which is great, again, opportunity for us, until 26th of August when he disappears and he's not very supportive. On 1st of November, he's stationary because from 1st to the 20th of November, Mercury will be retrograde in Libra together with Mars. So be cautious how you address people, how you communicate your knowledge, how you negotiate. Maybe don't. And then on 21st of November, he becomes heliacally visible morning first. So from 21st of November to 20th of December, you may benefit from his visibility again in terms of media, negotiation, communication, travel. But in every single video which I'm addressing for describing the month to come, I will also be repeating this important timing so that you can benefit from them. So with this, I'm completing. We used in our analysis the chart of the first lunar crescent before the point of the sun entering the vernal equinox, because this is really the celestial new year. This is the Akitu day, the Akitu festival, the holy day, which would describe how the whole year will look like. No, my prognosis was not negative, because I'm certain that when we maintain high vibrational level through meditation, through connection with the celestial rulers of the planets, through prayers, through maintaining high moral values in terms of empathy, being merciful towards people and everything around ourselves, I'm sure that we will be harmed less by the planetary aspects. Anyway, we chose the era to live in, so we need to learn our lessons in the most appropriate and wise way. So with this, I'm completing this analysis, and if you wish, you can look at my monthly descriptions of the months. They will be also very detailed. Thank you.